What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another North to South show here presented by Touchdowns to Home Runs. And I tell you, this isn't just any North to South show because we have a very, very special guest on today, a guy that doesn't need very much introducing at all, from 24/7 Sports, the host of The Late Kick with Josh Pate. Who else would we have on other than Mr. Josh Pate himself? Josh, first of all, thank you so much for coming on, and I got two things for you. First off, I want to tell me how you're doing today, and second, if you were to talk to a casual college football fan right now, someone who only watches the sport from the months of September all the way to January, and you were to describe to them what the future of college football is looking like right now in one word, tell me what word you'd use to describe that to that person.
Whew. That could actually be my word, just that sound. So first off, I'm doing good. I appreciate you having me on. Boy, oh boy. It's as if I don't know what the word is, so I'm not that good. So take whatever I'm about to say, and then let's try and condense it down into a word. So when you're driving maybe a little bit too fast, and it's at night, and let's say maybe it's raining, and down here in Tennessee, the interstates have really sharp turns on them. Out in the Midwest, it's just flat as far as the eye can see. But down here, it's very hilly. And so sometimes you'll be going way too fast and you'll go around a corner. Now you assume nothing's around the corner, but you really don't know. That's kind of how college football feels right now. Uncertain, I guess, is what we would boil that down to. But it's like there are about 3 or 4 earthquakes happening simultaneous. Any one of these things, NIL, transfer portal, obviously an expanded playoff, and then the Texas-Oklahoma domino, which in turn impacts the entire sport. All those things are massive. Those are generational occurrences in the sport. They're all happening at the same time. The Venn diagram historically looks insane right now. And so if I were talking to a college football fan, I'll tell you the way I'd sell them. Yes, this sport is built on tradition, but if you ever wanted to get into it, now's the time. Because 80% of the sport is overturning right now. And so a lot of us, even who have watched it since we were old enough to crawl and raise our head and look at a TV screen, we're going to have to learn whatever the new normal is, which is an overused phrase as of late, but there will be a new normal in college football. I'd sell them on that. It's like, I would love to be good at golf, but I have never played enough and I don't want to suck at it. So I just want to start and be good. Well, that's not feasible. So I just don't play golf. If you were to tell me that they were changing the rules of golf tomorrow, I would instantly pick up golf because then I'd be on roughly equal footing with everyone. That's what I would tell a college football fan.
Yeah, I could tell you the same about me with golf. Not the greatest driver at all. So, you know what? If they change golf around, maybe you could see me and Josh Pate going and playing in the Masters in the next coming years. But just getting into this whole Texas-Oklahoma thing, we kind of touched on it already. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm honest with a lot of my viewers when talking about this kind of stuff. My initial reaction to seeing Texas-Oklahoma joining the SEC is, why is everyone complaining about this? I mean, I get to see the rebirth of Texas A&M being played every year. I get to see games like Oklahoma, Georgia, Oklahoma, Alabama, Texas, Florida, all these different kinds of matchups that look so amazing on paper, but that was kind of the short-term mindedness of me and not looking at any of the repercussions and everything like that. And then you kind of dip your toe into, okay, what does this look like long-term for college football? And that's when I kind of shifted and was like, is this really going to be the best thing for college football if these two teams, regardless whether it happens or not, is this going to be the best thing for the sport if that goes on? So my question to you, Josh, is not necessarily tell the people who think that Texas and Oklahoma moving towards the SEC, not telling them that they're wrong, not telling that they think that's going to be a good thing, not telling them that they're wrong, but just to explain your side, because I know on your show you've made it very clear that you are against the move in terms of how the sport will progress in the next coming years. So tell me your side and what you see the negatives for college football in the next coming years would be with the birth of not only Texas and Oklahoma moving to the SEC, but kind of these super conferences that we probably are going to see a lot in the next coming years.
Well, the first thing I would do is I would identify the common ground, because if you're supporting this move because you would love to see a matchup like Alabama, Texas, well, I would too. That excites me. If you're supporting it because you see more competitive matchups on the whole and you see fewer cupcake games on Saturday in a conference like the SEC, which a lot of people view as being totally inexplicable, I am of the same opinion. So that's common ground, man. That's not where me and a hypothetical person who is supporting this disagree. Where we disagree is, what is college football? I know what it has been, and I know what it is at this very moment, but more so as the days go on, it appears that the future of college football is going to be something radically different. And I just wonder what that is. And I don't know that people fully realize the overall shift, and I'm talking about a cataclysmic shift potentially that's happening in what we call college football. See, for a long time, the sport was allowed to exist in sort of a controlled environment. I made it analogous to sort of a natural preserve the other day. If you've ever been to a zoo or a natural preserve, I mean, those are places where a society has decided we want this thing here. I mean, a zoo doesn't naturally pop up in the middle of downtown Nashville, but we have it there. We have animals there that have no business otherwise being in Middle Tennessee, but they're there. Oregon State has really no business existing in the same world as the University of Alabama. If you were to just look at it on the surface, if you were to do a dollars and cents inventory, none of it really makes sense. But for a long time, we have loved college football because it has prided itself on the compartmentalization. Not only that, but on the equal footing that a lot of universities to varying degrees of size and reputability have been allowed to exist on. And that's really a way too fancy way of saying there's been room at the table for a whole lot more in the college game than there is in the pro game. So my take on this has always been, if you like the way the pro game works, watch the pro game. If you like the way the college game works, I'll see you on Saturday. A lot of us watch both. There's nothing wrong with that either. What happens now is we essentially see the dam torn down that allowed the environment to exist. And when the dam gets torn down, there's a flood that comes. And the sharks will survive, and the lesser species will not. And in this environment, that means the big boys do survive. You won't be searching very long to find the University of Alabama or Ohio State. But, I mean, there are a lot of really solid programs historically out there, like Iowa State, Kansas State, programs like that. I have no clue where they fit in the grand scheme of things. It means a lot of people losing jobs. It means a lot fewer college football players potentially getting opportunities down the road. But even if you were to just look at it selfishly, it means a total and complete erosion of what college football has been, what you've grown up on. Now, I'm not stupid. I understand that the only constant is change, and I get that. But what I don't think we have to do is I don't think we have to sit there and celebrate the complete overturning of the future of the sport. And I don't know if people really understand when they throw out that term super conference, they think about it in terms of this nice, homogenized, congruent, one conference here, one conference there. We'll have four of them. That's plenty. No, you will not. You will not have at least four super conferences with enough quality teams to be viewed as comparable. What's a lot more likely to happen is it's a lot more likely you've got the SEC turning into a behemoth, the likes of which you've never seen in the conference, and you end up looking at the rest of college football like you do Major League Baseball and then AAA, AA, single A. That is what, from a competitive balance standpoint, the future of college football is a lot more in danger of taking on the shape of than anyone realizes right now.
Yeah, 100%. Like, this kind of bleeds nicely into my next question I have for you, because I kind of compare this right now, and I think it's safe to say that going on to the 2020s of the college football era is going to be labeled as the Moneyball era, much how the 2010s, you could call it the college football playoff era, with NIL coming in, with all the talks about the expanded playoff and everything like that, and now the birth of super conferences. You can call this easily the Moneyball era of college football. Now, how I think that this differs from the movie is the Oakland Athletics made the playoffs, and they had the path to make the playoffs. And my question for you is here, what happens to all these teams? I think it's disrespectful to call the teams that get left out of these super conferences leftover teams or call them leftovers, but that's what they're going to be. They're going to be the teams that do not make it into one of these super conferences. Do these teams that get left out of those have any shot at a college football playoff, let's say if they stick with four teams, or are we going to see even more segregation within FBS football, as we already do see with the group of five? The college football committee has made it very, very clear that it is very tough for a group of five team to even touch a playoff spot. They haven't yet. Are we about to see another segregation in the fact that the teams that are going to be below these, in my opinion, I see two super conferences coming in. A lot of people see three, but I think that four is going to be way too much. Are we going to start to see even more segregation, and these teams that are left out basically have nothing to play for but a New Year's Six bowl going forward in a bowl season and kind of being left in the dust like the group of five was the last couple seasons?
Yes, that is the future. I know it's bleak for them, but that is the future. And keep in mind now, you can't put toothpaste back in the tube. So you've sat here and you've told people, and I have not participated in it, but you've had a popular marketing slogan now for the better part of a decade that led you to believe the context of mattering in college football is directly tied to the playoff. And if it's not tied to that, if it's not correlated to that, then whatever you're doing doesn't really matter. And so now you can't forget that as you go into a new era. And if you've got 30 or 40% of what we view as current Power 5 programs that don't have a home in the future, therefore don't really have access, and even if the system technically gives them a path to have access, I mean, they're not incorporating TV money like they would. They don't have the investment in facilities. They don't have the recruiting budgets. So they'll never be able to be on par with those big time programs, not even close. Well, all of a sudden, you have now convinced 30% of the nation that you're watching meaningless football. We already had done that to some extent. And so, yes, it is as if you snap your fingers and a huge chunk of the sport, for all intents and purposes, just disappears. And we're not talking about small D3 or FCS programs that maybe you had never heard of anyway. I'm talking about some programs that you have watched growing up. I'm talking about some programs that are, bona fide players in any given year in their division races. All of a sudden, because of where their pinpoint on a map is, adios.
Here's another question I have for you. Do you think that this super conference realignment and everything like that, do you think it could benefit the group of five in any sense that these group of five conferences, the teams like the American, maybe even like the Sun Belt, the Mountain West, teams like that who are starting to see these Big 12 teams kind of getting left in the dust, do you think it will help them in terms of building a stronger conference if they could go, let's say, an American team goes and picks up a Baylor, if a Mountain West team goes and picks up like a Texas Tech, something like that? Do you think that the super conferences will overall benefit the group of five conferences, or do you think that overall any conference under the super conferences are going to be left in the dust and really, really suffer from the super conferences?
This is the one inflection point. This is the one pivot point that I don't really think anyone has a skilled method in answering. And I'm talking about the AAC. So right now, the big question on everyone's mind is still tied to this whole Power 5, G5 infrastructure or the way that college football is currently made up. And it really would benefit a lot of people to just temporarily forget that. Everything's fluid. The earthquake is ongoing. Nothing's stable. Everything's in play. And so, it was conventional wisdom when Texas and Oklahoma announced they're going to leave, or whenever they do. It was conventional wisdom from a lot of people to say, oh, well, I guess the Big 12, if nothing else works out, they'll just go poach from the AAC. Well, they will not do that. Actually, it's the opposite. The AAC becomes the more prestigious and attractive destination than the Big 12 is. I think it's actually more likely that the AAC is in position to poach Big 12 teams. And so then when you couple that with what UCF has done and what Cincinnati's done, and SMU is doing some things right now. Houston has big capability. I think that'll be one of the most underrated jobs coming open in the near future. Louisiana Lafayette would probably have to make a move here, but I think that's the one wild card. What kind of stature of conference could you have in the AAC? Because there will only be room for a maximum of one legitimate, what we would currently call a G5 product. And I don't know that there'll be room for that. But that's the one wild card to me in all this that I don't really think there's a lot of skill in answering right now.
Yeah, the group of five right now under this is going to be a huge question mark going into the next couple seasons of college football. And this kind of also bleeds nicely into my next question, because on your show, you've had very strong opinions about both of these topics. And I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here and give you a tough question. If you could choose one of these things to happen, only one, and the other one doesn't happen to college football, and we just move on with it. The playoff expansion to 12 teams, we're not talking 8 teams, we're not talking 6 teams, we're going 12 teams. What would hurt college football, the college football landscape more, a 12-team college football playoff or the birth of 2 massive super conferences that, like you say on your show, the words SEC or the letters SEC become CFB, the words Big Ten become CFB. Which one do you think would be worse for college football if one of these could happen and the other one just goes out the window and never happens?
Oh, I would take the playoff 10 times out of 10 over what is currently happening to the conference realignment picture. Because in the expanded playoff world, I think that was naturally going to work itself out to where people understood this isn't quite giving us what we thought it would give us. And, there's room for pivoting down the road. Once you move Texas and OU to the SEC and the dominoes that inevitably follow will fall, there is no undoing that. And I'm not saying that you'd contract the playoff down the road, but I could live with a college football world that still looks like it does with a bastardized postseason apparatus attached to it. I can live with that. What I can't live with is a bastardized college football. I don't even know if that's a cuss word or not, but I can't live with that. That's a lot harder, let's say, to swallow. And so I think I would definitely, I never thought I'd say this, but I would definitely take the expanded playoff over this.
Yeah, it's very interesting because you're kind of doing the opposite of what the expanded playoff is doing now. It's funny how both of these things are coming up within the same span of 2 months, because the college football playoff is working to expand the amount of teams being able to work in the postseason, and this super conference thing that's going on right now is doing the opposite, and it's making college football even more rare for these teams, these programs that don't get the national attention that the guys like Texas, the guys like Alabama, the guys like Michigan, even though Michigan hasn't been a power program the last couple seasons, they're still talked about the same as Alabama and everything like that, just because they have a dollar value assigned with their name. So it's very, very interesting to see how this, I'm not going to say the word because I know you don't like to use it on your show, not going to say the word, the months from February to August, or let's say July, it's funny how these months have played out. So my last question for you is really talking about the leftover conferences. It looks like, I think it's a very, very safe bet to say the SEC is looking like they're going to become the beast. I think we can all say that. It looks like the Big Ten is also going to probably survive out of this. It looks like they've reached out to a couple teams. Do you see kind of a race between the Pac-12 and the ACC right now in terms of survival, in terms of becoming one of these super conferences? And if you do, which one do you think is more attractive to a team? Let's say one of these Big 12 teams that are being left over out of the Big 12. If you have one of those programs looking at, do you want to come to the ACC or the Pac-12? Which one do you think would be more attractive to you if you were an AD or a head coach of a specific program?
Well, I actually think the deciding factor here will be the Big Ten, which is parked in the middle of them, because the Big Ten, from a cash advantage standpoint, is a lot more positioned. From a TV contract standpoint, is a lot better position. And I really wonder, first off, what are we looking at down the road? Are we looking at just an AB situation, or is there room for ABC? Because ABC makes it a lot more simple. ABC, you probably look at a merger of the Big 12, Pac-12, add a couple here and there, and then you look at a merger of the ACC and the Big Ten. I mean, that's pretty cut and dry. Let's see what Notre Dame does. But if we're looking at just an AB scenario, and a lot of that could be determined by whether the SEC decides to stop at 16 or not. Keep in mind, there's nothing that just says they have to stop after 16. So I think that will be the $1 million question there. If it's just on the surface and I'm the Big 12 and I'm choosing to go east or west, I always go east. Go east 10 times out of 10. In media, unless you're trying to get in the acting world, go east. And then when you make all your money, go west. But until then, go east. And so I think I would much rather buy into a proven product on the East Coast and the ACC than buy into vision and buy into a lot of hope and promise and a new commissioner and a fledgling football product on the West Coast. That's tough, because remember, I'm not taking Texas and OU with me. So I'm trying to go out there and I'm trying to work off of some established foundational franchise type programs, and they're really not there right now. Southern Cal is a fraction of what they need to be. Oregon, even at their best, is not equipped to just carry the conference. It shouldn't be something they're asked to do. So I would absolutely head east, and I would say hopefully about the time we get there, Miami and Florida State are getting their act together too. North Carolina continues to surge, and Clemson is Clemson, and then we'll be able to contribute to an already established product.
Yeah, 100%. You look at what the Pac-12's done the last couple seasons, and I mean, it could be relevant in saying the playoff appearances by the Pac-12 do mean something into the conversation of the ACC being better. But like, in all honesty, you just look at the depth of the ACC and even look at the markets that you have in the ACC right now. You will probably be put in a much stronger market if you head out east towards the ACC. I think that the TV deals would be better in that. When the Pac-12 right now, yes, you have Oregon, who usually is in the playoff conversation, but after that you have USC. Washington even is a very respectable program, but after that it kind of dips off from there in terms of how many viewers are you going to get and how many viewers and the actual attention that you're going to get out west. So Josh, that will be all for today. I really, really, really appreciate you coming onto the show today. It was tons of fun. Any closing remarks before we wrap this up and I send these folks home?
I am excited to be talking about fall camp whispers and intel this time 2 weeks from now. I'll just put it that way. Conference realignment has got me a little burnout on the
Yeah, don't use the word. We don't use that word here. We don't use it on your show. I'm telling you, you need to brand that. You got to create a new word in front of season, brand that, put it on t-shirts and say blank name season lives on 24/7 Sports and the Late Kick from Josh Pate. So Josh, again, thank you so much for coming on. Guys, if you don't already know what the Late Kick is, which most of you should know, definitely go check Josh out. Definitely one of the best, if not the best voices in all of college football right now. So go check him out. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Like down below, comment, subscribe. Thank you for watching, and definitely come back next time.